So we join back in with our adventures after last week. What an episode! Go back and watch it if you haven't seen our first ever in-person round the table, all of us together episode in 5 years. Definitely worth a watch. But this week we join the players as they have finished their travel, at least the first leg of their travel, and can see a camp just nestled just off to the side from Lake Sif. While the entire way here they've sort of been pestered and under watch from wyverns and the other dangers in the area, this camp seems very just out in the open. A singular two-man style tent with a large white flag waving above it. And as the group approach, Volu notices more than anybody the wash of it feels like the home of Tanabori. For the others, it just feels kind of calm here. Each of you almost like settle, like you feel very at peace. It's like being in some of the really untouched natural areas in the desert for you.
How are my moths reacting, Liam? Are you happy?
Yeah, well, not like happy, but just calm. It's just like they don't feel any threats. And as you get closer, you would see that the satyr that is currently stood there turning some food on a spit does wave to you, but then almost just goes back to that, not watching you approach, as it were. And as you come to maybe about 100 foot of the actual tent, there's almost like a ripple sensation across your skin as you walk through. You definitely couldn't see it, but there's some sort of barrier, some sort of magical effect that is sort of permeating this area. And again, doesn't feel. It's almost akin to walking onto holy land. It's like that sort of your moth calm feels fairly peaceful here. You can hear the small crackles of the fire, and again, sort of a little bit sheepishly, no pun intended, Kanda will glance over to the group and motion towards the tent and say, you must be wary if you want to drop your things. Food will be ready shortly.
What time of day is it, Liam?
Fairly, I don't think too late, but it was afternoon because you dropped south and sort of pulled around. You'd encountered, so maybe about 2, that sort of time, like coming into afternoon.
Elena would just say, is it safe in here? We're not going to just get attacked. And she's looking at the sky.
I have found no issues. You should be fine, at least while you are within the borders of the camp.
Thank you.
There are rooms for you. There are 2 rooms. I don't know if you want to share or separate. It is up to you. And again, they motion over towards the tent.
Yeah, I'll go and investigate.
Okay, and stepping into the tent again, probably only Volu has seen this before. The rest of you have definitely heard of this before, as just spaces that are larger on the inside than they are on the outside. As you step through the tent flaps and step into, still designed to look like a tent, just a much larger one, and you can see that there's a central area with 3 curtainable like spaces off each side of them. You can see that one of them already is open, but already has clothes and other things there, and the other 2 look clean and cleared. There are 4 beds, 2 in each.
Okay.
They are like single bed sort of thing. But you are free to set up how you wish.
What are we doing?
It's like a TARDIS.
What's a TARDIS?
It's something that you're free to use in their plane. I don't really understand it. Canon.
Although you did just make the Doctor and a free tea. I'm going to ponder on the ramifications of that and come back to you.
To be fair, if it's in new Doctor Who lore, I would explain why instead of regenerating, he splices into two different people.
Mm.
And also explains why it's all rubbish.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if
Christopher.
Tenebris is the Doctor?
No, it's what if Tenebris is one of the Doctor's companions?
Oh, or the Master.
Or the Master. I was about to say. That works best.
No.
And also, I'm also a Doctor Who fan, Paul. I just think it's rubbish at the moment.
Surely in that retrospect, it will be Tenebris
it is
is
just
the
my
Doctor.
opinion.
Tenebris is the Doctor, and Dante is his companion.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's more appropriate, unfortunately.
But okay, so and technically, honestly, it's just all. But anyway, like Genie's lamps are bigger on the inside anyway, as far as we know.
You've now
so,
set his brain off running.
Anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, so and you can see in the spaces there's different things sort of set up. There's in the main space there's some books and some spaces to sit and read. There's some lounging spaces, and again for Volu, this is how his tent is set. Their tent is set up when they are just chilling. They were not sure how long you were going to be or if you were going to even turn up, so they were like settled in for the
long haul.
You know, there's a few instruments in the corner and a tray with some glasses from last night on it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, when you live in something that's bigger on the inside, time isn't really the same for you anyway, so.
A bit wibbly wobbly, really.
We already had a timey-wimey potion the other week.
That's true.
Okay, so yes, how would you like to set up? Are you all going to pile into one room anyway, or are you going to separate?
Oh, I know how you explained it, but I just assumed it was almost like all open, but with sections.
So there are curtains that can cut off the sections if wanted. So again, you can just literally put all your stuff in one space and then just mill about the whole area. Or if you want to set up dedicated rooms, you can go pull the stuff. Have a level of privacy.
Dante will. He first would look like he's going to head over to Candor. That's the name.
Yeah. Well remembered.
We'll pause. Thank you. And we'll go over to Volu and just be like, do we ask to start? Is this... What do we do now? Is this a thing in the Feywild? Are we guests? Is there... What is the etiquette?
Polite conversation. I know that's not your easiest forte. Maybe a sharing of bread, a meal, and then we'll get started.
I have a sausage.
I mean, you're asking people who live in the Fae, saying I didn't realize I was running around for several months until Eleni told me. So if we need them to hurry up, it needs to be on our end, but we need to be part of the deal.
We'll go over to Candor and be like, hello.
Hi. How are you? How was your journey here? Did the wyverns bother you too much? I hope not.
No, we found one. It was infected, but we got rid of it. Would you like a sausage?
No, thank you. The food will be ready in a moment. If you are finished packing your stuff, feel free to come and join me. And there are motion, and there are some stumps of logs been cut enough for each of you.
He'll just look back at Volu and go,
Good job.
How is Rufus responding? Is he also very calm? Is he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Seems very settled. And sort of just probably curls up by the fire,
That's
and
good.
especially with Dante approaching and coming to talk for a minute. They will sort of start to plate, not really plate stuff, but it's almost like a skewer. The setting them out on leaves for people to come and take.
Bolu will take 3 skewers.
Eleni will just come and sit cross-legged on the ground.
E.g. finds a stump, purchases himself.
First of all, thank you. I was not sure if you were going to come, but as I said, I hope your journey was not too wyvern infested. Corrupted wyvern was. I had I had an inkling when I saw how they were being, but it shouldn't bother us here with. You would see they'd sort of pause and don't finish the sentence, but their eyes flick over towards the tent. And I'm sure you are wondering and wanting to get along with this. Dante, first of all, we will be able to do the ritual as soon as tonight. To enter the place where you will speak to Tanabori requires it to be midnight at this lake. There are a few others, but this one will suffice as a doorway as we have set it up.
I'll just kind of give Volu a look. I'll kind of be like,
You're the one with the fire.
okay.
And they will sort of turn to Volu and say, and I must let you know, Volu, that any of the group except yourself can go through.
I figured as much due to our previous conversation.
However, they have set up I'm trying to think of what the word is, simulacrum clone copy. If you wish to ask any questions, keeping you on separate planes is necessary for now.
Bolu will kind of take a deep breath, stifle his emotions and go, it would be nice, even through proxy, just to speak to Tanabori again.
That can happen whenever you are ready. For now, eat and rest, but we will be waiting until midnight for Dante. I suggest you get some rest and prepare, decide which of you is going and which of you is staying. It is not a requirement, but suggested that the sword does not go near Tanabori. Again, I've been permitted to let you know that the Lord of the Brass City has reached out to the other members of the faction with assistance to this. They are claiming that he is under attack from Luryxian supporters. Obviously, we know the truth of this, but we cannot speak up about it. It does, however, mean that they are searching quite avidly for the sword, the wielders, and any other such things they can. The further that is from Tanabori in any incriminating way, the better.
It's in. We'll look over towards Ichi and just be like, we've got it tucked away for the time being.
That is good. For now, if you have any more questions, feel free. Make yourselves at home. And they will sort of just take a seat and they sort of start absent-mindedly start tuning an instrument. And you do have some time to kill. Obviously, as you know, there's maybe we said it's about 2ish, so you've got a good 10 hours before midnight. So that can be some downtimey stuff. That can be some just pure resting and getting ready for what's to come, or it could be talking and asking questions, etc. So I'll leave the floor to you for a moment.
I mean, I do think trying to get some sleep if it's safe here. I know it's early, but getting as much rest as possible is probably a good idea. But who's going with Dante? Do we all go? Do some of us stay with Volu?
If
It's
they
up to
have,
you guys. I don't have a choice.
Neither do I.
So Ichi then.
if the simulacrum that's on the other side for Volu to come through, are they able to use that to just speak or just be with us?
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
They would look. There's definitely a look from Kanda about. And Ichi, you would pick this up with the insight. This isn't like, oh, this is a secret and I shouldn't tell you. It's more like, not my secret. And there's sort of, as far as I understand it, it will be almost identical to speaking to the real. You will be able to have a conversation. It will not be. It is not pre-recorded message or other such thing.
And it'll be on this plane, won't it?
Yes, they are waiting nearby. Should you wish.
Well,
Whoever doesn't go should be having the bag of holding.
mhm.
Agreed.
I'm happy to go with Dante.
I'm
just
happy to
anxious
stay with
about-
you, Volu, if you want some company.
I'm not sure.
Why not have a think? We can all get some rest.
My emotions are not providing any clarity. Unlike this lake, which is pristine, it's more like the mist which we had over there. I'd already resigned to the fact that even that I wouldn't get to see Tanabori. So I know it's not the same, but it almost feels like I can have a conversation that I'm almost not ready for.
It's entirely up to you. I'm going to get some rest anyway. You can always decide right beforehand if you want me to stay instead.
I mean, yeah, I can take the bag of holding if all three of you want to go. That's fine.
It's possible that maybe if all three of us do go, at least we all are there for the information and questions. As long as Volu is safe on this side.
Is Kanda coming with us or staying here?
I would stay here. My part in this would be to guide Volu through his section. Again, officially, I have no contact with Tanabori. This is all done by proxies and other such things.
So you said you were guiding Volu, or do you mean that you're guiding Dante?
Volu. So if Volu wants, because again, he doesn't know yet if
She
Volu wants to have
guide
a
me to
conversation.
the clone.
Oh, I see. I meant was Kanda going to go through to
That's
see
it. So they're
Tanabori?
not
So
going to
no.
go through because they're staying here to do the Volu stuff.
I see.
you get the impression they talk to Tanabori via proxies and
I wasn't sure how that worked, so no, that makes sense. Okay.
yeah.
So Volu won't be on his own, and in theory, this camp is still safe.
Let us go together.
Okay.
It would be good if there is some way that we can share my fire somehow. May not be possible,
That would be
but
good.
it would mean that if something happened to me, others could still pick up the fight.
Yes.
Okay, so Eleni's going to rest. Eleni, if there's anything else you want to do in that time, let me know. Any downtimey stuff. Dante, what are you going to do in the meantime? Also, by the way, you can't long rest, but if you've got any health stuff you want to do, you could short rest in this time if you want to heal at all.
There's nothing I'm actually actively working on or anything along those lines, so I'll just do nothing.
So, yeah, I
You
don't
said there
think
were
I've...
some books lying around, Liam. Is there anything interesting?
Most of it seems. I mean, I suppose so. It's you at first very interesting because it's basically all just fairy books. But they are story books with maybe flavorings of some truth. So it talks of dragons and attacks the village and the hero saves the thing. And it's definitely, I think the cadence of them, the too rhythmic in terms of, this happens and this happens. To be history, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost too perfectly laid out.
Yeah.
But yeah, they mostly seem storybooks, things to pass the time. There's a few in there that are almost like music instruction, like those sorts of things. But other than that, there's not.
I think it would just be cleaning armor, cleaning weapons, having a bit of a read, and trying to get some sleep at some point in that.
Okay, enough.
I might ask Kanda actually, just be like, do you know of the Lost Song of the Bard, I think it was called?
The last song of the Hollow Choir.
That's it.
They raised an eyebrow. I have heard a thing or two. How does well, I suppose you're not just a mortal, but how have you come about that?
Somebody was trying to get information from it, for it, that and learning history through stone. And so he was trying to get knowledge, perhaps thinking of where to find such a artifact. We found out information in the library.
I mean, it is said that should you finish reciting the song, the last song of the Hollow Choir, that they would be returned to life. That is the myth, anyway. We fear no better than to go poking where usually when things are brought back to life, there is also some killing involved. That if you are not aware and not ready for it, probably is you.
Yes, there is someone. He's trying to find it, activate it, do something with it. Student.
Well, we will know if he succeeds. He will be a very deaf student.
Would it cause any issues for the world we're in?
Oh yes, but I mean, look at it now. It is already in a pretty dire state, don't you think?
Okay.
But yeah, should we wrap up all of this situation and you not get severed from the cosmic wheel forever, trapped in your own hellish, corrupted plane state, then yes, maybe worry about the student with a fae fantasy. I'm sure he's not the first. Worth keeping an eye on, though. It might be interesting. And genuinely, that through that whole thing, I know your insight is shit, but genuinely has no worry, but a level of actual curiosity. Like, they would like to see that unfold and just see what happens. And again, that very blaseness of a creature that can just leave this plane when they like. It's probably for Dante, you recognize it because a lot of the planar creatures that Tenebrae ever interacted with had the same thing. If you know that unless you come up against somebody that does all the right things, even dying here just sends you home. Like, it's almost like Funzy holiday time. Like,
Yeah.
but you get that air from them. They're definitely not saying that it's not a threat. They're just definitely not as bothered as this current threat.
Okay.
So, if nobody's doing anything specific, and Volu, are you wanting to wait for whatever happens with Midnight Ritual to happen before you do anything? Well, what's Volu going to have been doing over this time? Everyone else is sort of waiting for a task, preparing, buffing armor and stuff.
Yeah, he's going to be ruminating over when, if he even wants to, perhaps he wants to do it afterwards when it's maybe less dangerous. Maybe if his emotions flare up, it won't affect how Tenebori treats the others. He'll eat one of the sticks he grabbed because he's contemplating too much and can't even focus on food.
Dog eats it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe at a certain point find yourself just sort of sat watching the stillness of the lake, which again, so there's one or two weirdnesses that are going on, but it's almost like when you're just looking at it, it's not noticeable. But as you're sort of moving around, so it's, for example, the flag that is flying above the tent is flying as if there is a steady wind blowing, but the lake itself is still, almost as if it's just a mirror of the sky above. And as the sun begins to set and it shifts into that night sky, you see the first few twinkles of dots appearing reflected in the lake itself.
Well, he might go outside for a little bit. Just dip his toes in the water.
It's ice cold, but like not so much that it hurts, but it's just like that immediate shock of cold to your feet.
He'll kind of like stand there and like go, oh, but almost want to stay in it as long as he can, just to be distracted for a moment. And as he jumps out, does he see any ripples in the water?
So it's strange as you jump out, all of the ripples, they like ripple outwards, but then they almost just hit and deaden and just disappear at a certain point, almost as if they were evaporated away from or disturbed as they flowed.
Other than the cold, does Volu feel anything on his feet?
There's almost just a second of just days that you were outside with Tanabora. You would often play in rivers and wander as she spoke to you, and there's just a moment, almost in the cold on your feet. There's like a flash of warmth on your face and skin.
Yeah. Kind of just smile at the water and just sit with that moment, and then wait for the others to either come outside or head off.
Okay. Okay, so eventually the time would pass, and around maybe about 11, Kanda would not be coming and necessarily like getting you like, we need to go now, but just sort of saying, if you want to get yourselves prepared, we are nearly ready.
Ichi,
Yeah, buddy.
may I have the bag?
Certainly. Look after it. Don't put too many sausages in it.
That would be a waste of sausages.
Well, no, it's just, you could get them out later. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
Get them out later. Concept does not compute.
You know what? Because we're about to head off and everything, I'll give you this one little. If you bought 200 sausages, and
I'd eat 200 sausages.
if you bought 400 sausages,
I'd eat 400 sausages.
pat on the head. Right. So we're going.
Yeah, Kanda will put a hand round Ichi's shoulder, and as they're leading them away, just say, "This is why we didn't explain that sausages come from pigs."
You're telling me Volu doesn't know that sausages come from pigs?
I assume he knows they're a meat of some kind, but there would be problems.
I don't know what to do with this information.
I don't know what to do with that information. I've got.
Yeah, sorry to drop that one on you.
You drop that one on me.
Do I not? Am I a bad
funny.
person? Like, is it bad if I don't tell them? Like, I feel like they deserve to know, but also, like, oh.
I mean, technically, sausages can be anything.
I mean,
Also-
yeah.
And also, technically, you're meant to, protect this world from other world, other planar things. This semi-other planar thing might,
I
take
shall
all
eat
the
all
pigs.
the pigs.
You might destroy all pigs, which means no more sausages and bacon for us.
No, they're more worried that he's going to forgo his main quest and just become a pig farmer.
Oh my god!
I thought
could you
that-
imagine?
If you told me that, it'd probably be a mass extinction of pigs.
Okay, so they, as it's coming to the time, they will gather you all. The lake itself, as said before, is almost like a mirror of the sky. And in the last half an hour or so, Kanda is sort of sat on a rock by the edge watching. And as you sort of come out and look, it's at first maybe not so obvious, but they're almost watching for the reflection of the moon to be perfectly central. Doesn't seem to matter what state the moon is in, as it's almost one of the crescent. It's not like any sort of special or significant, but it definitely seems to be a time-based thing, as they're just watching as this reflection of the moon sort of shifts across this pristine, still lake. As you sort of come and join them, they will say, when you are ready, step into the lake, and when I say now, say by the fractured heart.
Dante just walks in.
Okay. And again, as you sort of step in, so Dante, as you put that first foot in, again, it's shockingly cold. But as you sort of put your foot in, there is a red, not like full glow, but if you imagine the water had underlighting, there's almost like a red glow where you step, and of like hissing water evaporating. No pain, you're not feeling it, but it's almost like reacting to your very essence as you begin to wade into the water. As the others follow, each as you begin to step in, it is still just as cold, but you almost see a orangey aura developing around where you step. Almost to Ichi, whereas the reds and yellows that Dante is giving off, it almost, looking at it, if somebody said the color of fire, that exact red, that image pops into your head almost immediately. And as you sort of look down at the orange, the only feeling it really gives you is like a warning. It's almost like the color that a warning traffic sign would be. And Eleni, as you step in, first off, your moths fizz with excitement, almost as if they all just got their wings wet and are shaking them off all at the same time. Your entire body begins to buzz, almost tickly inside. And there is a silver light being cast off where you step. As you all stand in the still, almost your feet disappearing into the blackness of the lake, Candace says, "Now speak the phrase." And as you all speak, I don't know if you want to say it.
By the fractured heart.
The fractured heart.
Go on, Dante.
By the fractured heart.
The second you finish the phrase, the temperature of the lake almost plummets. And still without pain or any sort of feeling to it, icicles start forming up your legs and over your feet and over your body before eventually over your entire form. And for Volu stood on the beach, or as it were, of this lake, their entire form in a second almost freezes over entirely and then shatters, the pieces of them falling into the lake. As you open your eyes, for the others on your side, you were frozen over, and then it's almost like you stepped forwards through the frozen ice and passed through an ice wall, moving into a fairly large and pleasantly temperatured ice room. There doesn't seem to be any other doors or exits or other ways in or out. And the second you have stepped through, the wall behind you is already freezing over once again. You can see that there are chairs and a sort of set-aside station that seems to be not an altar, but almost like a seat set aside on its own, surrounded by not quite like magic rings, but like objects. So if you imagine there's like a little tethering of plants in this corner, but there's like an area set aside on one side, and then currently sat by a warm fire, you would see an odd mix, actually. They almost look like a Grundon. And a weird shift between, if a tree could be a Grundon, they're normal humanoid sized, but they are bark skinned from head to toe. They have large growing sort of vines that almost give that same, almost like wild thorn bush vibe growing from their head. And a pair of fairly cold, calculating eyes lay upon you before Welcome. It is lovely to meet you all. My name is Tanabori. If you would like to take a seat, I'm sure you are desperate to get started and have many questions.
Where's Volu's counter?
Count.
Oh, his clone or whatever the thing is he's using.
Simulacrum.
That I have no idea what that is, but I've
Back of the material player.
Oh, he's not joining us for this.
No,
Like,
he was told he's not allowed.
no, I know he's not.
Simulacrum was joining us, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was what I thought.
No, so Tanabori.
You're meeting actual Tanabori. I can't be seen to be on the same plane as Tanabori.
Clone of Tanabori.
Oh, I thought the simulacrum was of Volu.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
Right, that's why I was confused. I thought we were sending a
sorry.
copy of Volu through
They've set up a
Yeah,
copy of Tanabori on the material plane.
that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I was.
I also thought it was a clone of Volu coming with us.
No.
Oh,
Sorry,
I understood you, Liam. Sorry.
Yeah, you were the only
So
one.
I mean, the players can all be cursed. There is no goalie that steps through with you. But yeah, you are welcome to sit, stand, join. There are a few drinks and other things on the sides. Seems to just be plain water.
Is Tanabori as tall as me? Taller? Shorter?
They are sat down and similar heights, which gives you the impression to way taller.
Okay.
However, I'd say as you approach Eleni, only you, because I think are you proficient in medicine things?
I think I am. Hang on a sec.
I think you are as well.
Oh no, I'm not proficient in medicine. I am in
Okay.
nature.
So from the nature thing, I think. So the top, where the first bit that you see when they're sort of sat up, they seem quite well and moving around quite ably. As you get closer, their lower half is almost like browning and almost weakening. So like soft bark is like crumpling off them. Definitely, if not ill, wounded. That sort of vibe you get from them.
Okay, I think as she's sitting, I will sit so that my head is lower than hers, sort of trying to show respect and.
Kind of just look over, just, give a nod and sit down. Still don't really know what the process of these things are right now.
Ichi will take a seat, kind of like in a similar way of like in the like the tribes and everything, that there would be like an elder and everything, just that whole kind of like showing them that kind of respect of like looking at them, but not like not necessarily anything expecting, just kind of like waiting for them to guide the conversation.
I'd say for Eleni and Ichi, if you imagine that they looked fine, it's very hard to tell because there's no you've not encountered this creature and such before. But it like almost seeing them relax tells you that they had been tense before, if that makes sense. The second Ichi sits down, they seem to relax a little.
Okay.
They weren't sure. It's not like your insight picked up worry before.
Yeah.
But you do know your insight is good enough to notice that almost like repositioning, the dropping of the shoulders, they're almost feeling slightly better, but specifically when you sat down.
Yeah. When that happens, there's a moment of like guilt that kind of just comes into Ichi. And just kind of like does their best to kind of like give a warm smile and
She's part of a racist cult.
So, we can progress this as I do not know how much you know, how much you learned from your time. They sort of looked at Dante specifically with that. Well done on freeing yourself, by the way. They are not happy about it. There is an almost little smirk to the mouth when they say that. It has made things difficult this side, though.
Funny, it's been quite freeing my side.
I can imagine.
We've come here because you're here to show me how to use my fire and not hurt, not kill. You showed this to them before.
I did. Now, what I must be clear with you is this is not a once done, always works kind of thing. This requires your own effort and focus, you understand, yes? There were many of the Afriti that were incapable. The ritual we are going to perform is a Fey ritual in nature. I worry that for you it might prove challenging.
Should have seen what the ritual I put up with begin with.
There are rituals that are done to you, and there are those that you must willingly submit to while every part of your body is screaming knots. Essentially, this shift comes from nature itself. Fire, as you know, is a violent, destructive force. It is also warming, caring, allows many things to survive when they should not. You need to shift, summon your fire under that pretense. My worry for yourself is the deep psychological scars from having spent, from what I gather, a long time with, and to be clear, Tenebris never successfully completed this ritual. Some beings are too fixed in their belief that they are pure destruction, unwanted fire. And that does that makes some sense for you, Dante, that like, even to the other planar beings you have met, he was very intentionally vicious. Would, even like, oh, he lost a card game, I just burned the whole fucking pub down. Like, that level of, he was just that. And obviously you have always assumed that's maybe the creatures or maybe that's the faction he comes from or whatever. But yes, he was not able to shift his destructive tendencies.
I am not him.
No.
And
But
where he fails, I will beat, as I've done once already. As he says this, probably unintentionally, like there's a kind of like a echoey sound of defiance in his voice. It's not necessarily pointed at her, but it's just.
And they don't seem to react necessarily to it, as they just say, hold on to that. Whenever you are ready, take a seat and we can begin.
Well, I have a question. Is this power transferable? Can others attain this? For as much as good as that I can try to do, on a bad day, with a bad blow, it seems that quite a lot is resting on my own health.
You never We never found a way. However, we only looked into planar solutions. One thing I am sure you are all quite confused about is my involvement in all this, from the little you have gathered. I think we have gone too far, the factions, but they also are too deep into it, if you imagine how, when we first began this push, it was at the sacrifice of many of our own. Imagine selling a dream to people at the cost of many lives, only to then backtrack on that dream. However, there are lots of outcomes and lots of resources we have not looked into. For example, I know that Kanda has told me, and I've seen things that the mortal mages are able to create. I have seen the wonders that gods can perform. I just do not think we can solve it anymore. And with that, I think the insight from Eleni and Ichi, there's definitely a level of there's some guilt there, and you get the impression that maybe they quite fervently pushed the original, you know what I mean? Like they were maybe some of the higher ups that were selling this dream. There is a level of personal guilt there, not just like guilty by association. So I do not know. Maybe there, as far as we have not been able to enchant anything with it, though again, we are limited. We use quite natural forms of magic. We do not bend the arcane stream to our will as some others do. And I would say for both, and again, high insiders, their eyes flick specifically towards Ichi when they say some others do. But seemed less about the watcheriness. Again, it was almost sort of unconsciously sort of flicked in that direction. I also must explain that there are eyes on us always. I know from recent learnings that you have come across a way to shield yourselves from that. They are not foolproof. The groups that do our divining are quite skilled at looking for allies, those you might have spoke to, the like. Hence my need for separation to others, certain members of your group. Even Canberra. I must ask that, besides what is necessary for the mission, that you keep details about myself to yourself in this moment. We have set up a way that Volu can speak to me. They will see me as I am, but even speaking a name can draw the wrong attentions. Whenever you are ready, Dante. And they will sort of stand and sort of move away from the group a little bit, and allow you to compose yourself for whenever you're ready. As you are doing that and having a think about what you might, if you want to do anything, if you're just going to go straight in, I'll flick back over to Volu, who's left standing with Kanda on. And there was, for your side, there was that freezing and the breaking, and then it's stillness again.
That's how they do it.
Yeah, it's not my favourite of the portals, but it is an effective one.
I did wonder why the lake was so still.
It is on a perfect ley line point. You can sort of see that you aren't able to see as such, but they use prestidigitation and almost with light lines draw on. And there's sort of if what they're saying is true, there's maybe 4 or 5 magical ley lines that center in the very, very center of that lake. I've always been impressed by the coincidental but almost purposeful placement of nature sometimes. We do not get things. Sorry, we do not get.
No,
things
no.
like
Continue. Sorry.
We do not get things like this in the Fae.
No, the Fae is more constructed.
It shifts too often with a mind of its own. Never would there be a lake in one place for thousands of years.
But you'd always know where to find it, wouldn't you, Kanda?
I do not know these days. Things are getting muddled. They sort of wander sort of a bit absent-mindedly away from the edge of the lake.
How long have you been here?
Not long. I set off the day after we talked.
No. How long have you been on this plane?
It is hard to tell. I left not long after you. Something happened. One of the servants of the Lord of Brass called out saying they'd found some signs of the object. If that was true, we needed somebody this side that could interfere. We had not yet found any of our halfling friends that would be useful to us, so we staged a little falling out. I threw a pudding at her. It was quite the scene. And I left, jumped into a portal here, and then I've been trying to be as confusing as possible. The Celestials, their divining capabilities, Volu, it is worrying what they already know. I do my best to make it look like I am now trying to subvert and work against the factions without any guidance. And should it all go the bad way, it goes on me, I suppose, but we can see. They will sort of sit down heavy at the edge of the campfire. And again, this whole time they've had this old loot out and they've just been tuning, almost like tuning on tuning. They haven't ever played at any point, which, sort of, I think for Volu, with your insight anyway and with your knowledge of Kanda, that is uncommon. They're normally playing constantly as opposed to just fiddling with it.
No pun intended. Do you miss home, Kanda?
Yeah, very much so. This place moves too fast for me, Volu. I've just about finished enjoying myself at one party when 3 weeks have passed and I have missed something. There is no time to enjoy things here.
I do miss just being allowed to drift off, not be whisked away by time. I miss staring and watching the world change in front of me. I mean, it does here, but it's not the same. You know what I mean?
I do. My
But
health's very.
it feels natural. Like this is where I belong. I guess it is where I'm from, after all. It's so bizarre having two places that feel both at ease and distant at the same time. I have missed you.
I've missed you too. Our little encampment was not the same after you left. And whatever you were doing over here did seem to be helping. Tanabori started to get a little bit more well.
Suppose that is good. That is what I wanted. I've never spoke to her this way before. Does it feel different?
No, from what I understand, it will be very much the same. But I have never spoken to them this way either.
How can I, if I interact with will it feel?
I do not know, truthfully, Viola. From what I understand, this is a tree grown from a piece of her.
I'll be honest with you, Kanda. I have no idea what I'm going to say. If I'll say anything, I don't know if I'll see her or the clone of her, and that I might be compelled to silence.
You will never know.
How long will they be?
At least, from what I understand, at least an hour. They, even if they were in and out again immediately, some time will pass because of the nature of the planes, but
Shall we play a game of Rochambeau?
yes, why not? And they will begin to sort of just casually play some games. They will sort of put some more sticks of food on.
And we'll pass the time by doing that. Maybe some attempts at cheating, but
yeah, no worries. Just passing the time, nice. Okay, so I will flick back to the others. The Tanabori has moved away and sort of left you sort of sat to speak and prepare. Is there anything that Dante needs to do before they go forth for this?
Dante will look over towards Ichi. Just going to go, got anything that might help with this?
Always. Ichi will bring a hand over the iris on their shield. It will begin to glow, and I'll throw that energy towards Dante, and I will cast protection from evil and good on them. So Dante, you now have protection against aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. Those creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. You can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by them. And if you are already charmed, frightened, or possessed by such a creature, you now have advantage on any new saving throws against the relevant effect.
Cool. We'll look over towards Eleni and just be like, any advice?
Just try to stay calm. It sounds like we're looking for the kind of warmth that people like. A fire that you stand in front of when it's cold outside, or the heat from a hot bowl of soup. I don't know. Just think about how we use fire in a good way, and not about the fire that destroys.
Dante reaches into his around down to his chest and pulls out the cloth with the carvings of his daughter and his wife. I've got just a thought. And we'll just hold that close, trying to remember, sat around, trying to remember. It's very hard for him to think back this far. They're just trying to remember the cabin that he once had a life in.
Okay.
And where they would be bubbling stew and stuff on it.
Okay. So you go and you take a seat. As they nod over towards Ichi and Eleni. It seems that where you're sat is fine, but you are also they don't seem attentive to where you are, so they're not like bothered where you're moving around. And they'll move forwards and they'll place a final sort of tying of maybe sage or other such things in the place, and there's almost like a soft shimmer that sort of fills the space around you.
Is this a magic circle again?
Not quite. It's not. You don't feel restricted by it, but it's definitely doing something. There's almost like that vibration of magic in the air, like there was down in Demetrius's basement. And they were, are you ready?
Yes.
And they begin speaking. They first in a language that I think only Eleni has, Sylvan.
Yeah.
So for Eleni, and I'm not going to give you the whole bit because it is a continuous stream, but it is a demand of an archfey who controls power over the natures of the Feywilds itself to call upon the flames, and it's almost that sort of instruction. And as they do, almost immediately, Dante, you feel all of your fire rise to the surface of your skin. And can you at first give me an intelligence saving throw as your body is starting to light?
Man, I'm glad that say this is one of my things. Dirty 20.
Okay, so you're holding the chair and your skin is burning just under the point of actual damage. And again, it's almost like flashing back to being when you were Dante and being burned by the flames as opposed to how it's been since your transformation. You hear almost a voice in your head. And as you're sort of listening out for this voice, it becomes dulled and you hear the crackling of the flames. And as you begin to slowly, your fingers start to light. And at first, there's almost like, whereas before you've been getting that hot orange flame, there is almost like a blue tinge to it. And as that first blue tinge lights up your hands, all of a sudden, almost like flashbacks, there are moments in your life where, to prove a point, we've talked about it before, that Tenebris has almost brought you back into consciousness in scenes of like stood in the middle of the pub surrounded by burning people. You know, that guard that maybe gave you a favor standing over their corpses, that sort of thing. And you start to get flashes of these memories and feel the sting of the fire whenever they would torture you when they were bored or alone. And can you give me a charisma saving throw this time as you're trying to push through this 300-year taught reaction to the flame?
Do I get any kind of advantage on any of these, whether it's the buff or?
So right now it's flat, but it would have been disadvantage. You are opposing a disadvantage essentially.
I thought that was a nat 20. That was a 2, so 5.
All of a sudden, Dante, and this is not a conscious reaction, if that makes sense. You start to well up with panic, and there were a few moments in those early days when you would wake up trapped in a burning inn, and almost again in the very, very early days, you would forget. Right, you would forget that this whole thing was happening, and you'd just be like, "I need to get out of this burning building," and they'd almost leave you like panicking at a doorway, knowing that there's no way you can burn in this inferno, but letting you sit in that panic and coughing and spluttering, and you start to feel that welling up inside you again. And for those looking, the blue flames shift to red, angry flames. There starts to pour black smoke off him, and you can see he's almost, for Dante, you're unable to move from the seat. But in your head, you're sprinting down corridors, clawing at doorways, trying to break out of the flames. Tanabori will look to Ichi. If you know anything to say to him, now would be the time. And they again begin speaking. For Dante, the inferno starts to crawl. The building, it's almost like you're in a stairwell and never ending. You look down, there's nothing but flames, and upwards, there's nothing but screams and crackles of fire.
Dante, deep breaths. You're not alone. We're here.
I can't breathe.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes, you can.
Smoke fire.
Ignore the heat, but feel the warmth. Feel the warmth. Feel how your wife made you feel. How you felt the first time that you looked upon your daughter. Was it a daughter you had, or was it a son? It was a daughter. That fire that lit within you when you first looked at her. It wasn't that of anger. It was that of care, of love. Breathe deep. They're both with you. That warmth you feel, it's not just the fire. It's the love they left with you.
Hit me another charisma save.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a 19, so 22.
Okay.
Do I get an additional +3 because he's near me?
Technically, yes, actually.
Yeah.
You take a deep breath. The building doesn't stop being on fire, but a doorway to the right, rather than that hot, black, smoky flames that you've been rushing up and down in, there's almost like warm candlelight. And as you sort of move towards it and step through, you are back in your old home. The hearth is burning and there's some sort of stew bubbling atop it. In the distance, you hear the laughter of your daughter and your wife, almost as if you're hearing them just outside. Though, as you sort of go to step forwards, as you take a step forwards, the wall and door sort of shifts with your step.
Tricks. I don't think I've given my wife a name. Yeah.
Never verbalized it.
Just double check. Yeah, because I've only got her now.
My wife.
I think we've talked about it, but I don't think you verbalized it.
Anita! Anita! Are you there? Trix! Trix!
As you take some more steps forwards, the door just seems to shift further and further, but the thing that seems to move with you in the room is the hearth. You hear a voice and realize it is Tanabori's in your head. This is what you must focus on. When I said that this is not a singular time, every time you summon this fire, you must focus on this moment. And you realize it is the night before you set off on that fateful journey where you encounter Tenebris for the first time. And as you're thinking on this, even in your dream state now, Dante, you shift into your new hybrid form. Doesn't cost you anything, to be clear, mechanically. But for those looking on outside, the shift happens in the chair, but the flames are now blue and teal, as you see there, almost giving off a sapphire glow from themselves sat in the chair. However, down in the center on their chest, and Dante, as you look down at yourself, there is that black, red, smoky flame constantly fighting against. And just through that window, you can hear the voices of your daughter and wife. Every now and again, those voices try to shift towards the cries for help and the burning flames that you've been forced to listen to so often. And you have to center yourself again and remember that you're here.
Tears start streaming down Dante's face, even in the chair. Just the thought of hearing their voices completely set him off.
For Dante, Tanabori, you almost feel Tanabori's presence leave, but get the feeling as you sort of, if you imagine in the chair, your eyes shut, and in your head, you're currently almost in this mental space. And you get the feeling, almost like without words from Tanabori, like, stay as long as you like, return when you're ready. But for those outside, and you would see the flames from Dante die down, but they are still now blue flamed, as opposed to the orange and reds that they've been showing previously. And Tanabori will turn and say, I think it is done. Only time will truly tell whether he is able to shift his belief. There is a lot of trauma there. It does not always make for sound mind when things get intense. Though I trust he has good companions to keep him on the right track.
Thank you for helping.
Now, before I leave, you are welcome to stay here for as long as you want, and when you are ready, just place your hands back on the wall that you entered through. And this sort of motion, there is, within the room, there's like one wall that's more bare than all the others, if you imagine, like the rest of the room's almost made to look like an actual room, and there's like a blank ice wall on the far side. I cannot stay too long or my presence will be missed, hence the need for a space where time does not work quite the same.
Dante hasn't actually left that dreamscape.
They will nod, look back over to Dante, and also for the two that can see, there's like a almost pitying smile, like they're happy, but they feel bad for him almost as they look at Dante. And then they will look at Eleni and sort of say, please keep watching after Volu. I'm not sure how he will react learning what he is about. Well, what he has learned. I do not mind how he chooses to act about it, but do not let him move away from his kind soul. And then they step towards one of the paintings, and you can see that it is a painting of like a forest glade with like, you know, sun shining through and such. And they say some words for Eleni in Sylvan. They say, walk the path of spring. There's almost like a ripple on the image before they touch, and they almost like shrink into the image. And when you look, there's another tree placed in the image now that wasn't there before. And you are left in the space. And as we sit here glowing, for those that are stood around Dante now in this blue glow, it is a nice warmth that is coming off them. The size of the inferno would almost have shielded back from it, but there is almost a soft heat coming off them. And as that happens, that is where we will leave part 1 of this episode. Thank you very much for joining. As always, thank you very much for playing. If you're enjoying the adventure so far and want to see what's going to happen next, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you know when the videos are coming out. And as always, rule well. Bye.
This is the end of part 1. Part 2 airs Sunday 7 PM GMT, or will be linked in the top right of your screen now. Thank you for watching, and roll well.